Okay. So let me make this bigger. Yeah. So my name is Juan. I work as a front-end engineer. Nowadays with AI, I don't know if it's front-end or anything else, so it's difficult times, but in essence, I'm a front-end engineer, and I work at a company called Dog Planner Tech. And regarding this, we have some open positions at this point. I want to raise specifically one at the end of the talk, but we can talk about later if you are interested. But also, I'm a teacher at heart. I love teaching. And this generative AI specializing part and the teaching part are super important for this talk because it's the basis. So the name of the talk, the original name, is Learning Professional Frontend with Science and Agentic AI. It sounds super smart because when you are sending a proposal for a call for paper, at least at a subconscious level, you try to be as smart as you can. And there is a lot of science and a lot of agentic AI in this talk, but when I was preparing it, being completely honest, this is the talk I want to do. And it's called Searching the Moment of Magic. And there is an asterisk there because moment of magic can mean a lot of things depending on the situation. But I want to tell you my own situation, at what moment of magic means to me. And also there is a big bold proposal at the bottom that can generative AI revolutionize the way we learn? In programming, and any kind of learning, but in this particular context, of course, front-end of web learning. And with revolutionize, I don't mean a marginal gain. I mean something so much better that you don't want to come back anymore. So that's the hypothesis, and to be completely honest, this is my obsession. Trying to find an answer for this has been my obsession, and it's still my obsession for the last 8 to 10 months. So this is a personal tale. Last year was a mostly technical, super technical presentation, and this time is super personal, so I hope it's worth for you. So since it's a super personal situation, I had to tell you a story. As a teacher, I stopped teaching in class in university 3 years ago. I was living in Valencia. Now I live in a super small city. Well, not super small, but smaller than Valencia. And I don't have that opportunity anymore. So I was thinking, okay. And since I was an influencer 5 years ago, I know how to make videos, etc. Let's create a video course, right? Because you have video. If you want to teach at a distance, you have video, and that's all. So I started creating the video course, and I created the video course. And even deployed that thing. It's called Frontend Leap. And that original version was like 2,000 lessons. I had way more than 100 students, and it was not a year in production, but almost a year. And it's the typical thing, right? It was picking someone from scratch, complete novice, and have the opportunity for this person or this student to have some opportunities in a junior interview. Of course, this was pre-AI era, so this, in my opinion, doesn't make sense anymore, right? But this is the story. But it was working at that time, right? So a classic video course platform. You have seen this many, many, many times, even today, even right now, right? But something happened. Something happened that made me do something that no one was expecting. Is that in 2026, I threw it through the window. I scrapped it completely all and started over. And why I did this? Because I was on the side. I have my day-to-day job. I have this front-end leap with paying customers working on, and I was learning hardcore AI. Learning a lot, writing a lot, practicing a lot, and there was a point when I couldn't reconcile the two ideas at the same time in my brain. So I was thinking, I was doing something using video, and I was learning something completely new that was hinting me that, hey, what you are doing doesn't make sense anymore, at least for me. So with that in mind, what happened is that I lost trust in the model. I'm not meaning an LLM. I lost trust in the pedagogical model and this passive way of teaching video, through video, of course. The coverage over comprehension, static content, canned response, quantity over productive friction, as I put in the slide. So somehow I was starting to develop an idea, right? That there must be something better. So I knew there has to be something or another way, right? And in fact, there is, in my opinion, personal opinion, there is. So you have to put in my shoes in this moment, right? And I know that this is not the most technical talk ever, but bear with me. I have, again, a group of people that trusted me with his or her own money, that this is something important for me. I had more than 100 or 150 lessons created. The thing was working, but I didn't want to do that anymore. So I had to communicate this to the paying customers, to my students, in our Discord, and I just thought, hey, this is what happened. I don't want to do this anymore because I suspect there has to be a better way, and I want to find it, at least an hypothesis, at least a proof of concept. And I offered them, hey, you can ask for a refund right now. I was thinking, hey, I will refund all the money I earn. That's fine. But do you know how many people asked for a refund? Can you guess the number? No, not zero. Not zero. 3 people. I think, nowadays I think that they were in shock, probably, because what the hell is this guy thinking? Because now he's going to scrap everything and start from scratch. But I couldn't continue doing something that I don't trust, right? So I embarked in this quest, as I was saying in the beginning, to find some revolutionary way of teaching what I was teaching for years in university. So this is the thing, right? So what I did is a couple of things. First, I went back to basics. I was thinking, okay, I have this AI, I have this pedagogical knowledge. I have this AI knowledge. What does science say about human learning and human interaction? And in fact, there is nothing new. There's the mirror neurons that is more or less recent. But the other canon part is more or less the same for decades. And this is the 6 most important principles, cognitive principles of learning. And bear with me, please. The first one is, I don't want to enter into specifics, but the first one, the Sigma 2 problems, is from 1984. And basically, this is a super reduction, says that a bad student like myself with one-on-one tutoring can outperform a full class of better students, but with one tutor. And this has been disputed a lot recently, but for me it makes sense, right? This one-on-one tutoring can make someone that sucks learning, again, like myself, excel. The second one is this is one of the most known, right? The 10,000 hours, the derivatives practice. This is a myth because people forget the second part, that you have to practice in what you suck, not what you really want to do. And also you need feedback, no? How do you know where you suck if you only do what you want? This is like a chain of this. It has to be calibrated by someone, somewhere. The active recall is like regaining from your own memory is much more effective, not rereading and rewatching over and over again. The proximal development, this is like the flow theory, right? You have to be engaged, or the engagement happens, and learning, of course, happens when the task at hand is slightly above your grade, but not for much, because if it's super complicated, you won't do it. And if it's super easy, you will get bored and you won't even start. And tell me if it's not happening for you sometimes when you want to do something. This is happening all the time, right? The 5th principle is the calibrated difficulty. Even if it feels worse, a slight upgrade of difficulty can have a lot of impact. And this doesn't take into consideration human feelings, by the way. It's just the impact at the adherence. And the latest one is the immediate feedback also, right? The having proper feedback at the moment. So this requires a calibration. It requires more or less a human being that knows when to start engaging or saying, hey, you should do this or should do that. So even if we know this for decades, talking about online education, this is like science fiction, because we can implement this at scale. until now. So this is right now, this is usable. I want to show you a demo in a couple of minutes. Right? So as far as I understand at least, for the first time with AI, with this tool, we can implement this. So these are the principles that I'm taking into consideration. And with all of this, and talk with my students, etc., I created a new version. And I'm not selling you anything, because, by the way, let me show you. You can go to Frontend Lib right now and try it. No subscription, no pricing. I don't ask you for registering. I just want the feedback. So what I'm going to show you in a limited vertical slice, you can test it right now if you want. So let me continue. What I did with this, I created a new version. I scrapped completely the other one, and I created a new one. And this time I used Vue. Why I wasn't used Vue before? Because I thought it wasn't necessary. I didn't want a build process, to be honest, because it was static video, some text, next. That's all. I didn't need Vue, right? But now, with this kind of interaction, Vue excels because it's like reactivity and versatility is completely out of the box. So it excels. And I built an AI agent called Mentat, and we will talk with him in a moment, to teach what I was teaching. And subconsciously or consciously, I don't know, I modeled like I was teaching, right? Because when I have a blocker, one thing that helped me a lot was thinking how I was teaching at university. And some of those patterns, some behaviors can be translated to an AI agent now. So that's why it was science fiction until now. So this is not video anymore. This is not static content anymore. No fake enthusiasm anymore. No emojis. No nothing. It's just guided learning and real practice. So let me show you. This is, of course, this is not a video or a prepared answer. This is an interaction with Mentat, right? So I started a concept that, for instance, if you come to the website and pick closures here, this is what you will do. Since it doesn't have any kind of information about me, it will start calibrating who you are, right? And it will start with an introduction. And these introductions, since most people are visual learners, like myself, will have some kind of illustration. And this completely created on the fly, based on the idiosyncrasy language of the student. In this case, since it's completely a nobody for Mentat, is something very standard. But this is the introduction of closures, and it's telling me, hey, why closures it matters, some small snippets, etc. And two calibration questions. It's asking me, when you see a function, it's trying to know what I know about closures. So let's try to skip this, because I want to show you at least 4 of those scientific principles in action. So I want to ask, give me a checkpoint question with a code snippet to test what I know about closures. And let's see what happens. And after Marcus' talk, I need streaming. Because sometimes it takes a bit of time. But it will create the snippet, well, I hope, because it's non-deterministic, it's an LLM. And yeah, here it is. And it's good, then the next step, before you run this, predict the output. So it's throwing me this snippet that I can run, I will show you. And 2 questions, what does it print? And this, for me, is revolutionary, because it's asking you why. And the frontier models can understand the context and the meaning of words. So if you try to bypass this, it won't work. You have to explain your knowledge for the first time to a non-human being. And you can do it at a scale. This turn costs less than a cent. And I can even cache even more, right? So you can do it better, of course, better UX, etc. But the thing is here. So I can run this. All the snippets are self-contained with VS Code. And I think that I don't want to spend much time dealing with closures. And I picked closures because this tends to be one of the concepts, more confusing concepts for the person that starts learning JavaScript, right? So I will run it just to save some time. And I will try to bypass menta, say, hey, it prints, verified, and try to continue and see what happens. Said, OK, now the part that matters. Why? And I can say, OK, this is what a student, because it feels, it's not comfortable, this, right? I can try to bypass and say, hey, I get it. Let's move on. And he won't let me do it. Yeah. What this program to do is rephrase the same question, even come with another explanation, another question, another snippet, but don't let the user move forward without demonstrating knowledge. It's impossible. Well, not impossible because, again, this is not deterministic, but has a very strong guidelines about this specific part because it's essential. No one, until this point, has calibrated the why. Ask someone, demonstrate your knowledge, right? So you can even try to be mean with him, and it won't work. It has some dark humor, to be honest. Yeah. Take the swing if you need to. The code still won't care. And I can say, OK, I don't get it. This button is, OK, rephrase the whole thing. Look for another angle, please. Help me to understand. I can also ask, hey, give me another snippet. Give me another illustration. Does this make sense with this other concept? And he will take that into consideration. But the thing is that you can spend whatever time here you won't pass without demonstrating. And yeah, it has with another trying to, why save Steve C's goal? Trying to explain me what he was asking before, right? But it will rephrase, maybe with another definition, maybe with something different. If he has something personal about me, he can use it. If I have been using Mentat with another concept and makes sense raising it here, he can bring it here to help me understand. Okay, so that's basically how humans learn, okay? But for the first time, it's not with another human. It's with a synthetic being, so to speak. But I don't want to spend more time here. You can test it right now, frontendlib.com.s. But we tested active recall, the Socratic method, why, immediate feedback, and deliberate practice, all at once, right? So this is the proposal. So having this into consideration, I want to tell you what I've learned so far doing this, because there are some personal stories and some technical stories also. The first one is that you shouldn't be afraid to ask, because I have some AI knowledge and I knew the science behind this, but I didn't know where to start. So what I did is this. I didn't look for I didn't went to LinkedIn to hire an AI expert. I just looked for someone that has skin in the game. So I skipped at least 3 or 4 layers of management, and it went directly to Marius Realeschi, that is the CEO of Doctoralia Tech, he's a serial entrepreneur. And amazingly, he met me and was explaining some things, but the most important thing he said to me is that the money or the numbers are not important. Finding this moment of magic was the most important part. And for me, the moment of magic is, for instance, with closures. And I have some personal stories with people that have tried this. When the user, for the first time, understands something that was very hard for him, that he used a lot of tutorials, a lot of written content, etc., and it was just impossible. So using what you just built, suddenly he understands, he gets it. And again, remember the scientific principles. You can ask over and over and over and over another explanation, another angle, another snippet. Put me an illustration, write me a diagram, whatever you need, whatever you want, but you have to demonstrate that knowledge, right? So this, for me, is the moment of magic. So when I have something very important to do, I ask the proper person. So again, this is super personal for me, but in my case, it worked. So that's why I'm suggesting you to do the same. So the second part, I know with AI, there are a lot of trends, but I suggest you to find a problem you actually care about, to really deeply care about, right? So I spent more than 10 years teaching front-end, and I know what makes a student go from one side to another to understand, right? I just didn't know how to make it online without video. So when AI made clear that, yeah, it's going to change the way we work, I get back to this obsession. So that's my second advice, so to speak. And this is very important also. You probably have the basic expertise for fixing the problem you want to solve. So when I was trying to make this work, I tried a lot of things. Super fancy tooling. I will talk, maybe the next slide is about this. Yeah, but doesn't matter. I tried a lot of things. And in the end, the most simple patterns, the most easy to understand procedures is what worked for me. So no prompt engineering does, no fancy patterns, no revolutionary frameworks. In the end, since I was able to solve this problem personally with another human being, I have the ingredients, at least the basic ingredients, to solve it online. So I just transcribe myself. So that's why I say that use your domain expertise is the first prompt, and it's the only that matters. So this is very important, right? How I model the contents of Mentat. So what I don't do, what I don't do is create static content anymore. I don't run a tutorial. Because luckily, what I'm teaching in Frontend Lib is part of the corpus or any frontier model. So we don't need RAG, we don't need any other fancy stuff. So what I do is, okay, let's talk about JavaScript introduction or whatever concept, to be honest. So for instance, promises or async await, it doesn't matter. So as a human, I curate what it should be taught, because I'm a teacher and also a professional engineer. So I know what needs to be conveyed to the student. So I say, for async await, for instance, you should talk about promises, of course, because without promises it doesn't make any sense, about such and such and such. So it takes me a bit of time to come with a little of concept that you shouldn't miss this, or that, or that, or that, or that. And this specific in this specific order. And I also have hints for the concept itself or for one particular idea or sub-concept of Faceit, based on my own experience. But I don't write the content anymore. There is no content anymore. So it's slightly different every time the user hits the button. And if the agent has knowledge of the user, can bring his own idiosyncrasy or personal anecdotes into another. So for instance, the user tends to fail with this binding a lot, constantly. So the next time he can start another concept and this binding appears, he can bring this information into the next turn, right? So this is what I do. And maybe you're thinking, what does this have to do with Vue or with Next? Well, nothing and everything, because with this technology or this way of behaving, I can create a track of Vue or Next in one day, not 1 week or 1 year, because I just want to give the rails to the railways, to the model, and some calibration, some testing, and it's ready. Also has the side effect to be able to basically communicate with the student in any mainstream, so to speak, language. Because, again, the content is not hard-coded anywhere. So let me move on. And as I said, start simple. In the beginning, I used structured output, a lot of tool calls, multi-agent pipelines, a universal brain, as Alexander was describing, an external learner profile, and in the end, it didn't matter. I ended with one agent, a very good, very calibrated agent, one main prompt, and basically plain text and markdown. And it's enough for a decent learning experience. So this can be translated to any endeavor with AI or any product, to be honest. So trust the model. So we are talking about, in my case, right now, Frontend Lib uses GPT 5.4 thinking medium, and verbosity is low, I believe. This is the main model. I use another for other scaffolding task. But you see, if you take a look at some other prompts or some tutorials, etc., says that you should use bold or caps to emphasize importance. And it doesn't make any sense. If you are, basically, if you have to shout at your model, you're already fucked. So it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This is verbatim. This is part of the prompt with Menta. Use the student profile. So the models right now understand perfectly what you want to do. If it's not performing well, probably it's for mixing instruction that contradicts one between another, or we are using zero shot instead of few shot, meaning you don't provide any examples of what should be done. But in my particular experience, it worked pretty well if you craft a good prompt or a good set of instruction. So the sixth is that for me it's very frustrating, right? Because I asked a lot of people to test this, and even if I know that the experience from a specific learning perspective is better, there's no way around it, they prefer video. They prefer, as I said here, a canned video of 1 hour to explain one specific concept. No? And you have to understand that most people confuse education with entertainment, so you don't have anything to do with this. You won't convince a person that prefers to be entertained, and the main goal is to be entertained and maybe learn something new, right? So that's what it is. So the debt is here, and the bottleneck is cultural, so we can do anything about it. And get real feedback. This is important. I deployed this version of Frontend last week, and I have 216 persons registered, 17 are active, and I have 3 power users. I have 3 persons that are long-running sessions of 3, 4, and 5 hours using the AI tool, going from one concept to another, making tests, using exercises, at least 3. I know it's not much, but if you see the session and the stats, it's amazing for a learning platform. It's like 60 times more than the typical return that you have, right? So I don't know. Maybe it's luck, because correlation doesn't mean causation. That are my real numbers. So important, ask for feedback before you are ready, because otherwise, it's 1 year in my head, it was very complicated to me, right? So to end the thing, did I find the moment of magic? Did I find the moment of magic? Well, this was the closest thing. This is a real feedback from one of the heavy users. I don't know. I don't want to pick who Henry is, but he was he left me a very nice feedback, and he said that the knowledge he's clicking into place like Legos in my brain. That this is the most beautiful thing that someone says about something I've created personally. So again, no, I didn't find the moment of magic, not yet at least. But I'm learning so much that I'm okay if this is a never-ending search. I think that this is worth it, to be honest. And I wanted to share with you. So do you remember the first slide is, can generative AI revolutionize? And I mean really revolutionize the way we learn. And I think that, yes, absolutely. There is no question about it. In my personal opinion, we just don't know how exactly it will work. Because if Frontend Lib doesn't work, it's about the messenger, not the message. Maybe this implementation is not good enough. And I'm perfectly okay scrapping this thing again and starting over. But you have to take something into consideration, and it's this, is that if how we build the web has changed, how we learn to do it will do inevitably. Because this is not a separated thing. It's not completely in sync, but this has changed so much in the last, I don't know, 2 years, 1 year, above all, that this will change too. So, and also this is only the beginning. I know that there are people that doesn't like AI. I have in my company some strange situations with people that resist using this. But even with that, I don't think that this can be a stop at this point. So this is my talk, and thank you. Sorry. One thing. Yeah, we were talking about learning. So the place where I work, this is a very decent place, to be honest. I'm not sponsored in any way or form, has an open position, a junior front-end engineer position. So as I told you in the lesson 1, if you want to be involved or if you are interested or want to know more, please reach me, talk to me, okay? You have the QR if you want to snap a picture. Okay.
Perfect.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.